Well, I've decided now that because so much of the mechanical stuff on the car has been done, I really only have the brake systems here to do. I haven't got the master cylinder or slave cylinder on yet, or any of that piping that I've got to have made up. So there are just a few little bits and pieces, the radiator and the fan. But I've decided that because I've spent so much money on the running gear in the last couple of months, I'm going to give a bit of a rest for a while. I'm going to start moving on to the body panels. And I think I'll probably start with the front and back shrouds. This is, as you can see, the front and back of the front shroud, and it's in very good condition. It's been sitting up suspended from my shed ceiling for 12 months, which is why it's all covered with dirt and my fingerprints there, but it really isn't, it appears to me to be very, very straight. I've still got this original piece of chrome here, which is in very good condition and probably won't even need re-chroming. It'll probably polish up okay. I've got to be very careful how I take that off so I don't bend it. The headlight here has had a bit of a ding, as a bend in there at some point in its life. It's been thumped. I don't think there's any filler in there. I can't feel any behind. I think it might just be a case of knocking this back out, and I'll take measurements from this side in order to get that the same. I can't see any large dents underneath. There's a little ding in the top here, probably doesn't show up on camera, but that'll knock out very easily. Of course, this is aluminium, so I have to be very careful how I treat it. But all this section here, and this part here where the windshield went, this is the original black colour that the car was painted, and somebody at some stage in its life has sprayed it what looks like Old English white, but I think is sort of a magnolia type of colour, because this is quite yellow here. I think that this other colour here has just faded away, because yellow doesn't last very well in the sun often, or at least didn't in those days. So it's all grubby, but it appears to be in very good condition. I'm going to use paint stripper on this and some very soft abrasive wheels, not steel, in case we leave any little bits of steel impregnated in the aluminium, and that might cause electrolysis and some corrosion. So I'm going to use a I don't know, a nylon brush of some sort, but I've used paint stripper before on my MGA. It's very messy, of course, but it actually works really well, and it's quite a soft way to get paint off, and I think I'll do it again on this panel here. I haven't decided yet whether I'll paint the panel on the car or off the car. Probably paint the underside at least first, and then maybe put it on the car and do the top side. I'm not sure about that yet. And I just very quickly flicked this over to point out a few things. Here you can see the original primer, which has been sprayed underneath, and that is really all it got. Didn't get any other paint on that, and of course that's just a stencil pattern which corresponds to this top section here. So obviously the panel was fitted and then sprayed underneath with a primer, but again there are hints of black on there, but not a great deal. Here we can see some of the beautiful welds that are done across here. So the panel is made up of 3 sections, actually probably more than 3 sections, 3, probably 4 or 5 sections. So there's a beautiful weld across there, and then we move down the inside of the aluminium, which in some places is still very shiny where the paint's come off. There's some evidence here of the black paint, which was the body colour. I think though that it hasn't had a lot of preparation, if any, and again there's a section there that's peeled off. You can see it's really quite shiny, and I think they just blew a coat of paint underneath it. There are some more welds here, really beautifully done. I guess they were using a TIG or an Oxy. I'm not quite sure what they used in the 1950s, but they are just lovely craftsman pieces of welding. And then same on the other side, of course, just down there. So this is the next thing that I'm going to work on. I don't know how long it'll take me. Certainly not as long as the MGA, which was very, very badly banged in the front. This appears to be straight, as I said. There is a little bit of a dent in here. I think there's a tiny bit of body filler in the other side, so I'm not quite sure. We'll have to have a look at how to deal with that, but there doesn't appear to be any splits. The edges along here where the metal sits up against the aluminium is not really corroded. It's really very straight and in good condition, so it'll be nice to do a bit of body work after spending so much time on chassis and engine. Well, I finished stripping back quite a lot of the paint. What you can see on here now is some of the primer. What I did discover, I had expected, because this car was originally black and there are some slight traces of black paint on the bodywork, I did expect that because it had been resprayed in a pale primrose sort of colour, I did expect that what I would find when I started to strip it was the primrose and the primer and then the original black paint and the primer. But what I discovered was that at some time the body, at least this part of the body, and I assume probably the rest of the car as well, had been completely stripped back to bare metal and resprayed. So all I had to get off was one coat of top coat, the primrose type white top coat, and the undercoat, which is the remnants of what is left here. So all I've used on this so far has been paint stripper. I will now go over this with a very light Brumby disc, hopefully being careful not to damage the aluminium, and then some hand rubbing with some wet and dry. And there's some evidence down there of stripped paint. The body, as I said before, I think is in very good condition. It isn't quite as good as I thought it might be. Of course, when you strip the paint off is when you discover that there is some filler. There are no holes or cracks or anything, but these light spots here are places where there was some filler. However, there wasn't a lot, and I think there's a very slight indentation in there, which I can just feel. Some of these, I don't actually know why they had filler. I think there's just really small marks, and whoever did it feathered the filler out right around it. So the filler wasn't very deep. It was probably only about 1/8 of an inch or so deep, and it does look like it's been applied professionally. And there's a little bit of a dent in there, and there's still a little bit of filler in there and in there that I haven't taken out yet. I'll sand the underside of this, which will give me some idea of where the dents are, because it'll show up the high spots, and then we'll do a bit of knocking. The front here looks like it's had a bit of a knock. I knew that because this light area here is pushed in, but this also is has had a bump here too, and it looks like it's been professionally repaired. This had filler in it, but not a lot, and really I think it was just to even out the repair work that's been done. You can see the file marks on here from somebody who's done quite a lot of repair and actually really done quite a good job. It looks like, to me, like a professional job. It doesn't look like a backyard bodge. Same with this little section here. Again, the file marks are really quite visible. Some of this is probably stone damage, and being as this is aluminium, I imagine it's very soft, and there is a very small amount there. So there was some filler in the front here and in here as well. I'll wet rub all this back with some wet and dry and have a look at it, and knock out some of the dents, and maybe I may have to put a very light coat of filler over the top, or a very thick coat of primer surfacer when I come to paint it. This section here, the grille section, is in shape. It doesn't look to me like it's ever been dented, and if it has, it's been repaired very, very well. And the stainless steel section that runs in there I've got out, and that's polished up beautifully. This section all around here is in very good condition. Doesn't look like it's had any knocks or anything, so I'm pretty confident that the amount of work required to get this to a good standard should be relatively easy, if there is such a thing as an easy restoration, of course. Well, it's pretty well stripped back now to its base aluminium in good condition, but a few little dings and dents that I'm going to have to take care of. It's pretty straight, so I'm not too concerned about it. What I'm going to do is give it a very light coat of a black acrylic lacquer, just to as a guide coat, so I can then give it a sand back and see all the low spots in it before I put any of the primer on and deal with those dents, because some of them are obvious, like that one just there, which can be clearly seen, and some of them are not quite so obvious. So that's the next step. Okay, so this is a very light coating of black acrylic lacquer. I'm using acrylic lacquer on this car, which I suppose is like the old cellulose. I think it gives them a very good sort of mid-50s look, and it's very nice to work with, very easy to work with, and I'm also familiar with it. So I've put a light, this is just a black gloss straight onto there. All of this will be sanded off then, and what's left will be the low spots, which I can then knock the dents out of. I'm using acrylic lacquer because if I use an enamel and I leave any of it on, there may be a reaction when I put the final coats of acrylic lacquer on. Okay, so now I've sanded off that coat of black that was on here. It might be a bit hard to see on film, but some of the dents show up. This one here I've pretty well knocked out. There's a very slight ding there, but of course being aluminium or aluminum, as you folks like to call it, it's very soft and very easy to knock out. You can see this little ding there. They're very slight. They actually look a bit worse on film than they really are. And a lot of these marks here are very faint, and the 3D primer surfacer will cover all of that. I'm not too concerned about knocking those out. It's really only the dents. There are a lot of scratches here, evidence of some work that's been done previously. Somebody might have taken the badge off here with a screwdriver or something and damaged it. They look worse than they are because the black is really showing up. This area here, as I said, evidence of some bodywork that's been done before. These are file marks. They look really bad, but they're actually not. I can just feel them. I'll probably take some of those out, but the primer surfacer will take care of just about all of this. There's a little, you can see this one here is quite clear, and there's quite a dip there that I can feel I haven't done any work to yet, and the same with just this section here, which is probably almost below that apron that's on the front. I think that these sort of interesting tiger type stripes that are all over it are possibly stress marks from the pressing, because they seem to be right along here. They're very shallow again, and the primer surfacer will take care of those. There is a slight dip in the middle there, which is shown up nicely with the black. I probably won't try and knock that out because it's a flat surface. Very hard for me. I'm not a good enough panel beater to be able to do that, but it will probably only need a very light filler coat over there just to even it up, and there was one in there before. I don't know whether that was done in the factory or not. There's a couple of little dings here which I'll take care of. Again, nothing serious. They look worse than they really are, probably from somebody dropping a spanner on the bodywork over the years, or who knows what, but it's really in very good condition. And again, more of those stripes there, which look to me, they're almost like stretch marks, and I think that they will be fine once I get a good coat of 3D primer surfacer on there and then wet rub it all back. It should come up very smooth. I'm very pleased with the condition that this section is in.